All right, we'll start right away with Aiden. So Mubadala, obviously, we think about it as this global player in deploying assets. But what are you doing in your AI department right now to bring that into the private equity portfolio?
We're doing everything, a lot.
Yeah.
On the private equity side, we basically reimagined our entire investment life cycle with AI at the center. So from screening, due diligence, to investment approval, to post-investment monitoring. And on top of that, we're actually AI enabling our corporate units. And we're actually working with Inception, with Ashish, to actually do proof of value. So we're actually commercializing some of our products. So the AI-enabled solutions we're building, we're actually commercializing and selling to our portcos to accelerate AI adoption.
Yeah. And can you just talk a little bit about the product itself? So how does that help the investment committee or portfolio managers to go and pitch for or pitch the internal teams on their next investments? So what are you doing there?
What's the value
Yeah.
created? So look, we're already seeing significant value creation. We're seeing on the investment life cycle scaling effects of between 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
So that's a lot if you scale it across 200 or 300 deal teams. And then what we're also seeing, because we're moving into the next frontier part, which is we're creating a digital twin for our investment committee. So what this is doing is actually using agents to simulate the investment decision discussion, so putting deep insights into the context of a human dialogue. So, it's only an augmentation of the decision process, but it really adds another perspective, and also maybe even more valuable, AI, what we're seeing is providing very strong contrarian views.
Yeah.
So it counterbalances and actually challenges the thinking in the process of making the decision.
So Ashish, you're working with Aiden on this, and when you create these digital twins, or you want to come up with this kind of simulated committee. First of all, how do you go about creating that product, and then does it also introduce a kind of confirmation bias in a sense, right? Like you're basically replicating what's already there rather than adding a whole other data set of information to it.
So excellent question, and I won't talk about the product because I think Aiden has described it in full capacity there. I think the partnership that we have with Mubadala is a great example where we as builders work with the subject matter experts at Mubadala to actually ensure when we build it with conviction. So why I'm trying to say that conviction is essential here. In most other enterprises that we've seen, there's a lot of experimentation, but at Mubadala, we focused on, and Aiden will agree to this point, on setting that foundation first. And they built a data platform where they ensure that the data comes in clean, so that we can spin off use cases to the ones that exactly as what Aiden talked about, from investments to procurement to legal, that goes in the right way. And at the center of all is definitely trust. They will ensure that the data goes in, is audited, and there's the right compliance mechanisms, even whether it's on processing or inferencing, to get this across the line. So if I have one takeaway from this, is I think to get the same level of conviction customers such as Mubadala has on driving this forward, because that drives change. We take that into our products and know what we want to build. And my offline conversation with Trevor is what I was saying is we are focused on what we know, what we need to build. And there are other solutions that we can just bring into this one single platform to offer the client, in this case, an investment end-to-end, all the way from sourcing to an IC memo built completely agentic.
And just on the origins of that, and to do the pun of Inception, do you go to Mubadala and tell them we can create this for you, or do they come to you and say we need this application or this platform?
So there is, I don't think it's a one size fits all. In Mubadala, I think it's just a perfect DNA how we work together. We've reached that stage because we've been engaged for more than a year right now. We have a sense of the wave when it's coming, and we're prepared. For the investment case, it's completely driven through their leadership. His Excellency Khaldoon, he exactly knows what he wants. He drives it through the head of AI enablement, where we have conversations, and then we just draw it on a whiteboard and just make that into a reality there.
All right.
Can I add a little bit to
Sure,
that?
please, go ahead.
This is where the magic's happening.
The magic what?
This is where the magic's happening. We
Okay.
are co-creating.
Yes.
So they're playing position with technical partners. We've got a lot of the business domain knowledge. It's really working very well with the partnership model.
All right. Well, Trevor, I guess this is exactly what you do in your work. So when you hear about this, them working together, the customer and the software provider in a sense, where do you come in on making sure that data set is actually the right data for them to be using?
So Scale sort of has two businesses. The first is we've worked closely with the model builders over the last decade and have provided human data that actually allows these models to grow. And so we are big believers that data is the differentiator in a lot of these models. And I think there's this, we were talking before, but there's certainly a theme that many enterprises and even governments have tried pilots and found them, they leave something to be desired. And often that missing ingredient is a really in-depth understanding of the data, whether it's the sort of ontology of the system or it's the quality of the data. And so that is always where we start. And I think that, part of the way that we work is we sort of understand, iteratively figure out with the customer what the intention is, what's the big vision. Then you really got to dive into the systems and see where you're starting from. And once you have that starting point and you can assess kind of the quality of the data and the quality of a subsequent model, then you figure out what are the additional inputs that you need to sort of bring into the system, which is where our kind of experience on the large language model side really plays in.
Yeah. And Lake, it's really great to have you here because you have two hats. You're the academic and you're also the investor in a VC. When you hear this happening, what do you think about the actual applications that are coming out of it? What is kind of the sweet spot of the value that's coming out?
Yeah, so when we think about what actually have pushed AI in the last 10 years is really the three things. One is the data, the second is compute, and third is algorithm. And then when we're looking to the data, how it's driving all the innovation of AI, the key thing is, do we have high quality data, as Trevor mentioned? So high quality data means that the data is available to train the models, but also for application companies, it means that do they have the ownership of the data? Do they have the right information? And do they also, very importantly, can they ensure the data is protected, the privacy is protected, and also meantime, there is continuity of how you collect the data, right? So as we think about, there's a lot of companies that we have, for example, we're a hospital, that we have so much proprietary data, so we should have a lead time compared to our competitors. However, if there is no data flywheel, which means not only the data is usable for your model, but also you don't have a product solution that you continue to refresh that collection and annotate that collection, and that will be very difficult. The best way we have seen so far is that people who have embedded the data collection process into their existing workflow. And so one example actually I want to share with people is that most people think that data advantage is only applied to tech forward companies, large companies like Uber, Airbnb. But I'm actually serving on the board of traditional industry, diamond industry. So I serve on the board of GIA. We are the largest diamond grading industry in the world. So what's interesting is that we think about diamond grading is computer vision problem. It's so much harder than looking at X-rays, right? So if you look at the diamond inclusion and you try to look at 200 diamonds in a day, and you're going to go blind, and it's not consistent. The traditional work process is that we have two graders grading at the same time. If they agree, then you get a certificate. If they disagree, you escalate it to a senior grader. And that's a very natural process you replace one human with the AI agent in this case, right? So we see so much success with that.
On that note, is there a kind of a cross-pollination of like this industrial sector knowledge that's happening into finance, or is everybody kind of creating on their own? And really, this is an open question. So digital twins exist in manufacturing processes. There's a whole bunch of lessons already out there, and it seems that everybody else is coming in. It's like, okay, I got to do this for finance, I got to do this for tech, I got to do this for government services. Or are they learning across?
I think the question is that when we think about different applications is that we look at a different application. Are they by isolation, or are they actually also collect other information from others? So one of the examples we're seeing is, as we're moving from large language model to multimodality to robotics, so we're seeing the information actually collected. A lot of them are not on just original training data set, but also on-set data collection as well. Okay. So in this case, you're not looking at one single provider, so you're looking at different signals from different providers. And that's why also AI governance becomes so important.
Mohammed, if I could add kind of 2 points. The first is when we, across totally different domains, we are seeing similar components. So take the example of, document extraction. These are sort of capabilities and tools that as we build more and more become more repurposable to sort of accelerate, I think, builds in new domains. I think the second point on the data side is particularly to a financial audience, 95% success in a chatbot is like a very high mark. In a financial sense, that could mean lawsuits and major significant losses. And so to get that final 5% of reliability, which is something we think about a lot, as Lake alluded to, it's not just the data that's in the system, it's the new data that gets created from the use of the product. And that's a big distinction, I think, from software is when you have users that are using it, you're actually creating new, very valuable data for that specific institution.
Aidan, this is something you kind of alluded to in your first response, but the platforms that you're co-creating with Inception, what are you going to do with that afterwards, right? Because like for you, you're going to use it for weather, but you're actually going to go out and white label it, sell it somewhere else. Is that the plan?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the best proof of value, right?
Yeah.
Really, it's a really good, tangible example of proof of value. So we're working on, actually still thinking about working on how we could commoditize and commercialize our investment lifecycle solution. But we're already commoditizing and selling, we've already sold, I think, to 3 companies in our portco, an AI observer, which augments the board decisions and actually allows them to kind of analyze and extract out information from all the unstructured content. But I think that the goal here is to really prove the value of the tool. And secondly, I think this is very important. The main driver, actually I'd say primary driver, is to accelerate diffusion. If you think about these revolutions we've been through, industrial revolution, you have maybe 200 years to diffuse technology, digital 50. I think AI is probably 2 to 5 years. So what we're doing with this commercialization channel through our Accelerate Impact with Inception is to push these products into our portcos. Yeah. So it helps them accelerate up the journey as well.
Yeah. So is that why you actually went with them to be?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think as an anchor partner to actually build this in-house, to see and make mistakes, but fail fast, pivot, and adapt into the right solution is exactly what we did in terms of having a wonderful lab as Mubadala is offering. And then as Aidan rightfully said, we've actually rolled it out to a number of portcos where we're actually seeing not just the value that it's been creating, but is also giving insights back to the investment holdcos on how the enterprise is operating and providing insights there.
Yeah. Trevor, one of the things that I spoke about earlier is that kind of this like hype versus reality. So there was, I think, a McKinsey study recently that said in a survey, at least for the region, 11% of companies feel like they're getting any type of bottom line benefit from deploying AI in their companies. It's not magic in a sense, right? And this is the dirty work that's involved. Is this what people, I guess, are missing in a sense of when they want to apply and work on a co-creation type model like this?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a common topic right now. I think the promise of AI is there. I think the timelines have been unrealistic, and this is not new to AI. This is a sort of common problem that we have in assessing technologies. I think what we do see, though, is if you're willing to engage, and if you're willing, as I mentioned before, to sort of iterate towards these solutions, we're seeing extraordinary impact. And that comes from a pretty significant mindset shift away from software, where you narrow in on the problem, you get really detailed about what that solution needs to look like, and then you hand it off to somebody to go build it or to buy it. And I think with AI, if you want to find success and you want to find really high impact, it is, hey, this is the North Star, and we're going to sort of iterate our way to that, learn from users, learn from what's possible, learn from where the data is. But there's a lot of, we call it data schlep, of kind of figuring out all the little nitty-gritty hard stuff to get you from pilot to real impact.
Yeah.
If I can just chime in really quickly onto exactly what Trevor said, one of the reasons why it's still a hype is the process, how you actually stratify it. In Mubadala, for example, there's a department of AI enablement. Most enterprises, it's considered as an IT budget. And eventually it comes, the ROI is not seen, and then it just dies off into what we call as death by pilots, but it actually doesn't see. I think the focus should be you create an enablement department or a transformation department which has a budget, which ensures that the CFO sees the needle moving in terms of ROI, and that's the only way. And choose the most complicated workflow, which will add value, and that's the only way you can start enablement there.
Yeah. Aidan, I want to get to you a little bit about the the other question is the frictions, right? So on the data, the AI data or AI infrastructure itself, we don't have enough compute in this region. You can't send a lot of your information out. We're going to get to you on how you're going to build that out, but how critical is it at this moment? Like as you're building this stuff, like do you need it now? Do you need it yesterday?
Need it yesterday.
Yeah.
So look, I think this is a very important point. I mean, we've been thinking about. Look, we're looking to the next frontier now, right? I think we've gone up this very accelerated delivery path together with Inception. If we want to be on the next frontier, which you always have to be, right? You're constantly having to move to the next leg. If we can't move our data because it's highly sensitive, so it has to be resident in the UAE. We don't have the high performance compute here, which is being built out rapidly with it's 200 megawatts coming on stream, right? With Stargate. And then also the other part of this is the next frontier models, because these models don't reside here yet. So we can't really take that next jump until all of this is in place, which hopefully will happen next year.
Yeah. So is it on target? And
No. Next time, Aidan and I should not be on the same panel because he takes away all the talking points that I have, including all the product build. Anyway, I know I'm conscious of time. Absolutely. I think it's a journey in this AI transformation. We start off. We're showing real-life use cases creating impact, which we've done. But eventually, we want access to the frontier models, bring that into the country. We're now converting, I think, thanks to the leadership here, moving Abu Dhabi from just being capital of capital to capital of compute and the capital. Yeah. And that's the part where sovereignty is not just about the data. It's about the model. It's about the infrastructure. It's actually also the human capital, where we're getting a lot of individuals, local individuals, working on these data sets to build frontier solutions here.
Yeah, but on that point, because like your parent company is G42, do you? I'm sure you have some sort of outlook or forecast on like what is that pent up demand, like that 200 megawatt? How quickly will it be? I don't know, used up or leased, whatever the.
As Aidan had rightfully said, everyone wants it yesterday. They all have a pipeline of use cases ready to deploy, provided data residency, processing, inferencing is done in the country. And that's the battle of how quick. I have a colleague of mine from Kazna who's actually right now there in the middle of the desert, actually building this at scale to ensure we can satisfy the customer demand here.
So Lake, I'll give you the last word on that resource allocation problem. What's going to run out first, the computer, the data at this point? What do you see it?
I think the first thing run out is the energy. So because right now all the foundation models are very compute intensive. And so one area I think both on the research and in the future investment that we'll monitor very closely is energy efficient compute. The energy efficient compute, if you think about it, actually exists today, which is our brain. We have a very small footprint. We use almost no energy when we retrieve information. So the latest research, if you want to look into this, is called free energy principle and active learning, active inference. So those two areas focus on, one is learning from human brain, how we work, and the other is learning from, for example, like colony of ants or bees, because each of the ants are not sophisticated, but work together is great.
So ants and brains and AI all together. Thank you so much to the panel, Lake, Ashish, Trevor, and Aidan. Thank you to the audience for listening.